Hi everybody, welcome back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel and welcome back to another match preview. This week we're going to be taking a look at the Liverpool game. It's a midweek fixture, this one. We're going to be travelling down to Anfield on Wednesday night for a Under the Floodlights 8 p.m. kickoff. I'm Scott, I'm your host as always, and this week I'm joined by Daryl. Daryl, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Pleased we're still undefeated, but there's been a couple of little bits of news dropping just recently that's dampened those spirits just a little bit. And as you can also see, I'm also joined by a special guest this week. We have Adam P. Adam, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Cheers for having me on. Gotta get shot.
No worries, mate. Anytime you want. If you do like this content and you want to see more of it, please consider becoming a subscriber. It's absolutely free to do so. All you need to do is scroll down from this video and hit that red subscribe button. You can also hit the thumbs up button and the little bell icon while you're down there. And what that will do is it'll help us reach other people on YouTube, but it will also get you notifications when we post new videos on the channel. We have a whole host of content throughout the week. Only today did we post 2 videos of the United State, which was the podcast was shared, and they did an interview with Dan, who is from, I believe, Canada, from Montreal, and he talked about his history and how he became a Newcastle fan. It's a good watch. And we also had the FPL show where we go over our tips for the coming game week. Always good and always informative. It was Dan this week because Matty was still away camping. One more thing to remind you of, the Gallowgateshots match preview is brought to you by Magpin, the go-to site for high-quality, unofficial enamel pin badges of Newcastle players, legends, and retro kits. For more information, go to magpinbadges.bigcartel.com. So then, as I mentioned before, we have another midweek fixture. It's 2 in a row. Never good, but what you're going to do with cup ties. We are travelling to Anfield for a Wednesday night kickoff against Liverpool. Liverpool haven't been doing too well, although, this weekend excluded, obviously, with that 9-0 win, but they're currently sitting 9th in the table with 1 win, 2 draws, and 1 defeat. Daryl, what are your confidence levels going into this fixture?
Well, until we found out the news as we recorded today, I probably would have been all right. I think we might just get through that game and still be undefeated for the season. But hearing the injury news or reported injury news about Bruno this afternoon that he'll miss the next couple of games is a massive disappointment. I thought we really missed him yesterday against Wolves. His presence in our midfield was a massive loss to us in that game, I think. And I know we came out of it with a point yesterday, and we'll get onto that. But I just think, you need a player of Bruno's quality in that starting 11. So going into Wednesday's game, I'm a little bit apprehensive, I'm thinking that the undefeated run may go.
Yeah, Bruno's kind of a linchpin in our central midfield, you find, and his lack of quality was quite telling yesterday. Adam, I know you made the trip over to Wolverhampton yesterday, or you might even the day before. I know you did an overnight blog, as you always do. How was your trip and how was the game?
Well, the trip was good. It does take a while to get Wolves even on the train. It was like 4.5 hours in total on the train, so it does take a while to get there. It was good. I think with the way the game was going in the second half, I think Newcastle had a good game in general. Considering we missed out on a lot of our key players, I still think they had a good game. But the way the game was going, it was frustrating to watch. I always felt like it was going to be a 1-0 to Wolves, but out of nowhere, Magpin just completely just flipped the game on its head, and then we had a chance to win at the end. So, yeah, a lot of emotions coming out of the game. Now, the injuries are the biggest problem going at Liverpool. You just spoke there about Bruno being out for the rest of the week. That's a huge one. We've got Callum Wilson's going to be out for another couple of weeks. Now, Magpin, there hasn't been any news about him coming out, but he was holding his hamstring when he's coming off the pitch against Wolves. So that one, I would think, is a bit of a concern for Wednesday. As well as that, we've got our new sign, Isak. Is his work permit going to be in for Wednesday? I sure hope so. So we've got that to deal with as well. So there's a lot of questions going into the game of who's going to play, and I think that's going to be our biggest problem against Liverpool. We really needed our best possible team to have a good chance against them. I feel like with some of the players in the squad, it's going to be a tough test. And I mean, I'm not complaining. It took about 5 games to potentially lose, but I think, as I said before, we probably will end up losing our unbeaten streak.
Yeah, so we'll come to our predictions towards the end of this, but like you mentioned, there are a few injuries, and like Daryl mentioned there, it's breaking as we are recording. Mr. Craig Hope has reported that it's going to be at least 2 games that Bruno will be out for. We are recording this before the match preview that Eddie Howe will be doing, the post-match interview. So we'll find out tomorrow, like everybody else, what exactly will the news will be on those injuries. Just touching on our injuries again there. Yeah, like you said, we've got Bruno out, Wilson out, obviously John Joe Shelby, and Emil Kraft, who looks like he's going to be out for the remainder of at least this half of the season. And Saint is a possible. If it is his hamstring, you're probably looking at easy 6 weeks for those things to get back. Let's hope it is just another one of those cases of Saint at the end of a game tends to limp around a little bit, and it's just one of those false alarms. You never know. We'll find out tomorrow in the pre-match interview. But moving on to Liverpool and actually looking at their injury list as well, they have a few key players who are going to be missing. Talking the likes of Thiago, obviously Oxlade-Chamberlain's been out for most of the season. Naby Keita, who scored in the reverse fixture against us last season. And also obviously Darwin Núñez, who's still suspended, which is big news really, because he is kind of their new star boy. And another one, which I only found out today when doing a little bit of research, but Harvey Elliott, who had a blinder of a start at the weekend, obviously came off at half time. He seems to have a little niggle as well. He's only on a 75% chance of starting. Daryl, does the list of injuries that Liverpool have, and there's a few others like Diego Jota, Keller, Curtis Jones, and some others, does that boost the morale of the team for Newcastle, given the injuries that we have as well? Does it kind of counterbalance each other, or do Liverpool have one of those squads where it doesn't really matter?
I think it's a bit of everything there, Scott, to be honest. I mean, it's down to Eddie to motivate the team now and get them ready and prepared for whatever squad Liverpool are able to put out there. They have quite a lot of strength and depth, which is something you can't actually say about us as a team just at the moment, as much as the investment's been there and we've brought some real quality in the 2 transfer windows so far that we've had under Eddie Howe and the new ownership. We're just starting to see the cracks a little bit with the injuries that we're now picking up. And it's just starting to show that when you really lose your top starters and top performers in certain positions, the replacements that come in behind them just aren't quite up to scratch. And as much as it pains me to say that about the lads, because I love them all, it's just one of those honest facts of life, unfortunately. But again, you're saying there that Liverpool do have their own injuries. It's probably been a contribution to their relatively poor start to the season in their eyes, because they would be expecting to be doing something like an Arsenal or Man City at this moment in time and being either completely undefeated with 4 straight wins or being in and around the top 3-4 positions in the league anyway. But yeah, I think it's going to be tough. It may play into our hands ever so slightly if we can be organised, and I think defensively, even though we've got the injury to Kraft, we are probably going to be all right in that respect. And I think it was important to see Matt Targett come on Sunday, so he'll probably be looking to be starting on Wednesday night.
Yeah, it absolutely was. I think the way Eddie's played that one with Targett, he gave him 45 minutes against Forest and then another 45, 30 minutes against Wolves. Yeah. With Liverpool, being 9th in the league currently at this stage of the season, Adam, the fact that they're below us in the league, you would have took that at the start of the season, would you?
Well, yeah, definitely. I think if you said that at the start of the season, you would think we're first in the table or something there with Liverpool. But I think the fact that the 9th very surprising. Now, I've watched them pretty much all the games so far this season. It just hasn't clicked on for them so far. I think Mane is a huge miss for them. Salah, you would expect Salah to kind of take the ranks, and he hasn't really done that so far. It's going to be a tough test. Now, I know they scored 9 past Bournemouth, but I've watched Bournemouth quite a bit this season as well, and they already look like a team that's probably going to get relegated. I don't rate them one bit. So I don't think it's that much of an issue with the fact they won 9-0. It's just how confident the players are going to be now. Newcastle haven't won at Anfield in over 30 years or something. I wasn't even alive last time we won there. So, yeah, going to that game, Newcastle are always going to have that at the back of their minds that we just never won at Anfield. So it's something that I think Eddie Howe would try and do, but it's one of those ones where it's this bad time for us. As we saw with the injuries before, I think it's a bad time to get them. it's good to get them out of the way because I always think Anfield is an unwinnable game for Newcastle. But yeah, I would like to say to try and get something, but ultimately, I think it's one of those ones where, despite the injuries Liverpool have, you would still expect them to win on paper.
Yeah, you mentioned Mo Salah there, kind of missing Sadio Mane. It's quite telling when Liverpool can score 9 goals and he's not involved in any of them. I know us FPL folk who put him as our captain were absolutely foaming at the weekend. You see the scoreline, you check it, and he's got 6 points if you captained him. It's not the best of looks. However, that being said, Mo Salah does tend to turn up against us. He does like the odd goal or two against us. He didn't start the last game, if I remember rightly. He started on the bench, which took everybody by surprise. They did still end up winning, of course, and he did come on, I think, 60, 70 minutes from what I remember, and run the show. Daryl, do you think Mo Salah's still as big of a threat as he always has been, and this is just a little blip? Is he maybe doing a Harry Kane and not getting started until September?
I think it just goes with the old saying, isn't it? Form is temporary, class is permanent. So
yep.
I think he's probably just going through a little blip at the moment. And to be honest, it may be that old case of Dr. Newcastle say, you know, Mo Salah and probably get you back in the stride of things. And obviously we hope that those days aren't going to be repeated and we can blank him out for another game at least and let him tear somebody else apart in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, I think, you know, he's a world-class player. He's one of the best in the world as things stand. So to keep him quiet, I think would be a massive achievement for us.
Yeah, I hope so. I think one more thing to touch on Liverpool before we move on to Newcastle. Obviously, at the weekend, they've got the Merseyside derby against Everton. And then the midweek fixture is their first fixture in the Champions League, which I believe is Napoli. So that's not going to be an easy game either. Adam, do you think there's any chance of Jurgen Klopp resting some of his bigger players for this game and concentrating on those two, on paper, more important games when you think of, you know, a derby and then a Champions League game? Or do you think he goes all out for all three?
Well, with Klopp, I imagine he would try and go all out for it anyway. You would expect those Liverpool players, due to how good they are, to just keep going non-stop no matter how many games they play. But yes, the Napoli and Everton game, that's a good point. Those two are bigger games on paper for Liverpool. So if Liverpool fans had the choice of resting players in one of those games, they'll pick Newcastle, obviously. So maybe they might end up doing that. No, it just depends on the situation. It's hard to tell at the minute. On the day of the game, we'll see what happens. I know it's on a Wednesday and they're going to play on the Saturday, but it's still a couple of days to get the players resting. So I think it'll be a case of maybe having a couple of players rested and then still have a majority of the squad start. I don't think it's going to be a complete sort of transformation of the team. It might just be the case of one or two potentially getting rested for Everton.
Absolutely. And I think Jurgen Klopp will make full advantage of the 5 substitution rule in our game and also in the Everton game if he's going to be concentrating on that Champions League fixture at the in a week's time. Yeah. So we'll move on to Newcastle, and one player I want to talk about. We talked about him quite a bit in the last preview, and that's the new signing, the striker Alexander Isak. Adam, I'm going to stay with you. Do you think we're going to see him make a debut, or do you think it's going to be a bench cameo if he gets his clearance in time?
I think it'd be a bench cameo. I think that's what the plan was for Wolves until he didn't get his work permit. You've seen Eddie Howe do this with Botman and Bruno, where he slowly works players into the squad. Now, I think it will be a little bit different with this one because of the striker situation we've got. Now, I don't want to bash on Chris Wood, but I think most fans know that he's not scoring the goals he needs to. For me, he's too slow. He doesn't fit in Eddie Howe's style of play with the way he moves around. It's just, I don't know, it doesn't really seem like a player that would fit in Newcastle's system where we're constantly trying to press the opposition. I think he'll come off the bench and I think the strike will be worked in quickly rather than you see with Bruno where it took a few weeks. So I think he'd been pretty much, I think you start against Palace is actually probably the best way of putting it. But I think for Liverpool, if he's work permits here in time, I expect him on the bench. And I do expect him to make his debut in the second half.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, like you mentioned there with Bruno, there were some games where he was getting 2 or 3 minutes at the end of games, and the same with Botman at the start there. I think he came on for the last 2 minutes in one of our early games, if I remember rightly. Daryl, what do you make of the Isak situation? Do you think he gets at least a few minutes against Liverpool?
I think Adam's completely right in what he said there, and you know, we've seen it so far and we've named those players straight away in terms of how they've been sort of bled into the squad over a period of time. And I think Adam's spot on as well when he says it, with the striker situation, it may just be done a little bit quicker and a little bit more forcefully. I think if Chris Wood does start on Wednesday night, he may only get an hour, and then maybe Isak will get the final 30 minutes, and then that should hopefully set him up in good stead to start on Saturday against Palace.
Yeah, I tend to agree with both of you there. I think if it's still 0-0 and there's 60 minutes on that clock, I think Eddie Howe will be chomping at the bit to get his new star man on that pitch to see what he can do. I've seen reports today that he's absolutely humiliated one of the defenders in training this week. I don't know who it is, but it was doing the rounds that he's absolutely humiliated them with a little run and then a little shot that he did. So hopefully he can replicate that on the pitch, and he's not just a training ground wonder like we've had a few in the past. There's a few that spring to mind when you talk about that. Other players for Newcastle, obviously, we have our injuries elsewhere in the pitch. We'll come on to our lineups and our predictions for who will start. I think, again, as we're recording, there is kind of breaking news that the Martin Dubravka deal is all but done. He will be loaned out to Manchester United. So I think we can all agree that it's going to be Nick Pope between the sticks at the weekend. And what a great season he's had for us so far. He's been absolutely solid. If you said at the beginning of the season that we'd be getting a goalkeeper of his caliber in, when we had a high caliber goalkeeper in Martin Dubravka and a pretty good backup in Carl Darlow, it wouldn't have been the first on my list of who we needed to get through the doors. Like that would have been one for maybe next season or even next January for that window to bring in a replacement keeper. Adam, were you surprised with the movement in the keeper situation when it comes to one, bringing in Nick Pope, and then two, Martin Dubravka kind of on his way out?
Well, I think with Dubravka, I think it was only a matter of time before he would want to move out of the football club. I mean, I think it was more or less the second we signed Nick Pope. I mean, Nick Pope wouldn't have signed for Newcastle unless he was starting for us. I couldn't imagine he'd come as a number two, so I think that was a dead giveaway straight away. Now, with Pope and South, I think it's an obvious sign when you think about it. I don't know why I didn't think about this earlier in the window. Like, it was just such an obvious sign. Burnley got relegated, and there's a goalkeeper available that wants to leave for like £12 million, an exceptional goalkeeper. So, yeah, it was really good business for Newcastle. Got the deal done in the space of 24 hours, so I wasn't messing around with that. Now, with Nick Pope starting, as you said before, yeah, I expected that to happen. And as a result, Dubravka is just more or less said, I've had enough, I want to go elsewhere. But the only thing with Dubravka being is that he's left as a second choice goalkeeper to go on Man U, where he's probably going to be a second choice goalkeeper there as well. So, I mean, yeah, it's his choice at the end of the day. He's had a great career at Newcastle, but I think he kind of left on a bit of a sour note, unfortunately.
Yeah, we were talking about this on the preview for the Tranmere game. We were saying whoever doesn't make the bench or whoever doesn't start in that game is probably out the door. And it turns out it was Darlow. Whether it was because of this talk about Dubravka's potential move to Man U, because it was kind of emerging around that time, had anything to do with it, we don't know. I think one thing I would say about Dubravka in his defence for the move is he'll probably get more games because Man U are in cups. They're in Europe as well, and he'll probably play the European games. And who knows if De Gea has a poor run of form like he tends to have. He hasn't been the most solid of goalkeepers over the past few years. Maybe he'll sneak into the Premier League starting team as well and get a few minutes. But we'll see what happens. We do wish him all the luck. Obviously, he is still a Newcastle player until at least the end of the season. It is only a loan with an option to buy. This is what we're getting reports here, not an obligation. So we'll see what happens. He may come back thinking, actually, I was better off where I was, and I'll have another season at Newcastle next year. Saying that he'll be 35. Is it the sort of signing that you still want? Anyways, moving on to the defence. Daryl, is it as you were? Or like you've mentioned before, does Matt Targett come in? And then if he does, what happens between Burn and Botman?
Yeah, I think it is going to be quite a nasty decision that Eddie Howe's going to have to make. And as I've said in previous match previews, I'm glad it's not my headache to have. I think as much as I've said that Targett will want to come in or should come in, I think Eddie will probably stick with the same back four. He likes his consistency, and that back four has been consistent since Matt Targett got his injury. Dan Burns filled in really well at left back. I thought he was actually when I first saw his name on the team sheet against City, I had absolutely massive worries about it. And then as the game progressed in that game itself, you could see actually it was quite a smart decision to put him in there because his height was able to cut out those balls that were being put across to Bernardo Silva on that right wing. So he was cutting out all those crosses. He wasn't outfoxed that many times in the air. Bernardo Silva did get the better of him on the ground, but that's by the by because he's a big man with gangly legs, and those things can happen with him there. But I think he'll probably go with the same back four. It will be interesting to see if he does change it, because he might change it, as I say, because if he's going to be up against a tricky winger, and he's going to have two on his hands there with Salah and Luis Diaz, whether he might want to go back to Target, who's probably a little bit more better in dealing with a tricky player than Dan Burn would be. But I think he'll probably stick with that back four.
Yeah, the other thing you got to remember as well is Liverpool have also got Trent Alexander-Armstrong and Robertson as well, who, you may as well say there's two wingers on each side who are going to cause the problems. Kieran Trippier's an interesting one. He seemed to be holding his hamstring as well a little bit by the end of the game, but he did appear to run it off, and he has been seen in the training photos today that Newcastle released. Adam, is Trippier a start for you if he's fit?
Yeah, 100%. I think Trippier is just that player has to start every single match, and with the right back situation as well. I mean, let's just hope he doesn't get injured anytime soon, because otherwise he's going to be stuck with Mancure, and that's the last right back of crap out pretty much the full season, you would feel like. So, yeah, that's still a problem at the minute, the squad depth, I would say. You saw the bench, for example, even some players that started against Wolves yesterday, there's some players there just aren't cutting it anymore, is probably the best way of putting it. I mean, a lot of them are great servants at the club. They've done an incredible job in the time we've had. But now, under the new ownership, as we get better players in, just some of them just can't really cut it anymore. So, as for the Liverpool game, I mean, Kieran Trippier just has to start in that Liverpool game. We've got no choice but to start him if he's match fit. As for our side, as you said before about Dan Burn, yeah, I probably agree as well. Eddie Howe will keep the back four. Personally, for me, I think I would switch the left backs around. I like Dan Burn yesterday, but I think this is one of them where you just want to switch someone around and just make sure Dan Burn can be ready for the game on Saturday. So I would probably make one or two rotations personally. I mean, against Liverpool, with all due respect, it's not the worst case in the world. You're going to change a couple of things around and just take a loss in the chin. I think it's a good chance to try and get a couple of extra legs going, and then be back in Saturday, hopefully, with a much better performance. But it's just one of those ones where, as I said earlier, again, it's just bad time to play Liverpool, and it's unfortunately something we're going to have to deal with.
It is absolutely something we're going to have to deal with. We'll move a bit further up the pitch. We'll talk about our centre midfield. Obviously, we know about Bruno being out. Is it a case if you stick with what started with Wolves and you go Willock, Joelinton and Sean Longstaff? Or do you mix it up and maybe give Elliot Anderson a little run out instead of Willock? Daryl, Elliot Anderson did a very good job when he came on against Wolves. And like Adam said earlier, he actually nearly got the winning goal if it wasn't for that crossbar. What's your thoughts on the centre?
I think the centre would probably just remain unchanged, to be honest, Scott. As much as Elliot Anderson did come on and do really well, I think, again, you'll probably be looking to have that similar sort of impact in the game on Wednesday night as well, and using him later on in the game when one of the more experienced midfield three start to get a bit tired. And they probably will, having to run around after Liverpool for the best part of 90 minutes. They've been fairly solid as it is, and I thought Sean Longstaff was denied a clear penalty in the first half against Wolves with a shirt pull. I still look at that and I just think how, I had Ruben Neves on some sort of drug, not knowing and having memory loss and not knowing how that game went on Sunday. And he seemed to conveniently forget that we had a shock and VAR decision of our own.
Yeah, and I think I was on Sky Sports News today with the ref watch that I can't remember which referee it was that they had on, but he pretty much confirmed two things. One, it was definitely a penalty against Longstaff, and two, it was not a red card against Shaw. So the two things that Neves was pretty much complaining about, and yeah, it was a bit of a harsh challenge, maybe, but it was no way a red card. It kind of made him look even worse than what he has been already based on those comments. When it comes to the front three, and again, we're assuming that Eddie Howe keeps the same formation here, obviously, with this lineup. We've got a possible injury to St. Maximum, and even if he's not 100%, Adam, do you rest St. Maximum anyway if he has a little niggle? What could be one game, which, like I said, could be written off, could lead to being a longer-term injury, then putting him on the bench or even not including him in the squad and him actually getting fully fit for Crystal Palace?
Well, if you just have a niggle, yes, I would bench him. I wouldn't take him out the squad completely. I'll have him on the bench in case we need to bring him on, as long as he's obviously fit enough to actually come on the pitch. I would start Fraser on his position. You have that Amber on your side and Wood up top. And again, it's just a problem Newcastle on the bench when you bring on. You got Murphy, Ritchie, and Anderson. That's about all we got going forward. I think Anderson's an attacking midfielder, and you see when you put him in the front three. So, yeah, it's one of those ones we just got to get by. I'm hoping Newcastle still get a couple more signs in. We haven't utilised the loan market yet, so I expect us to try and loan somebody in before deadline day. So it's one of those ones we'll have to wait and see. Now, Wilson, I expect him to be back within the next couple of weeks. So I think he'll be fine. That'll be obviously a massive boost for the team. So that was just a bit of a scare, which is thankfully led to us bringing another striker in. But again, for Wednesday, we've got to work with what we have.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting with Wilson because now we've got Isak, who, and we touched on this in the last preview, is pretty much like for like in what Wilson brings to the table in terms of the stats, at least. Obviously, he's a lot taller and probably a little bit faster and a bit better on the ball than Wilson maybe is. If Wilson is fit, and obviously he's not going to be for this game, Daryl, do we have a bit more lenience in terms of resting him a bit longer that we can actually get him to a proper fitness level as opposed to like, right, you're ready, let's go. Maybe it's 2 or 3 more games than what we would have normally done because we've got Isak who can start for us.
Absolutely. Now that we've brought Isak in, there's a little bit more strength in the depth in that position. And from what we've seen so far, and I'll touch wood and keep everything crossed, that Isak doesn't seem to be any sort of injury magnet himself. So he seems to be able to keep himself fairly healthy. And if it means that Wilson gets a better opportunity to build up his fitness and build up his resiliency as well to get in these kinds of injuries, then by all means we'll go down that route, I think, and keep him building his strength and keep Isak even in that team going forward.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know if it's Isak or Isak or Isaac or whatever you want to call it. I think it depends on where you're from. We'll move on to our predictions, and I'll stay with you, Daryl. What's your predictions for this game on Wednesday?
I think it'll probably be a Liverpool win. I think as much as I don't want it to, I think the undefeated streak will come to an end, and I'm going to go with 2-0 to Liverpool.
2-0 Liverpool. Adam, your prediction?
I was actually going to say 2-0 as well to Liverpool, but I'd change it for the case of this video. But as you said just there, it's going to be very tough for the players we've got. We've got all our main stars mostly injured, so it's one of those ones where we just got to focus on Palace, really try and get the 3 points in that game. We've had a good start to the season. We've been picking up quite a few draws, so hopefully getting our winner 2 in the bag. But it's been good so far. Let's not get greedy. Liverpool, we're still not at that level yet. We can really challenge the top teams. I know we did a great job against City, but we can't do that every single time against these sort of teams. So, I'm going to go 2-1 Liverpool. I'm going to hope Newcastle will get an early goal, but it's one of those ones where you've seen at Anfield so many times over the years where we try and get a 1-0 lead and hold on, and it never happens. So, we're going to say it's going to happen again. But I think Newcastle will put a good performance in. And I think we will look at the game and go, you know what? Unlucky, let's try again.
Awesome. So I'm going to be slightly more positive, and I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think we'll be defending quite deep, and I've seen Liverpool find that quite hard to break down. And I think we'll frustrate them. But I think they will eventually break us down and they will get a goal. But I think we've still got a good goal in us against them, catching them out in the counter-attack. It really depends on if St. Maximum plays for that counter-attack to really work. Although Ryan Fraser was looking as fast as ever on Sunday, so maybe he can do a job there as well. We'll see. But yeah, I just got this feeling that Liverpool, they haven't hit the ground running. I think the game at the weekend was maybe them letting out a lot of frustration. And I'm glad they did it then because you guarantee it would normally be against us. But I've got a sneaky feeling we'll get something from this. So I'm going to be a bit positive and say it's going to be a 1-1 draw. Probably come back to haunt us, and it probably will never be that, but we'll see what happens. So that wraps up everything we need to talk about today. If you like this sort of content, we do this every single week for every single game, where we'll talk about the previous game, the opponents, us, and then fixtures and lineups. If you want to catch all of this and more, please consider becoming a member of the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. We're so close to 9,000 subscribers. We'd love to hit that by the end of the year. So scroll down from this video and hit that little subscribe button. And while you're there, hit the thumbs up or thumbs down if you like or dislike this video. And also hit the little bell to be notified when we get new videos out. If you want to go one step further, we do have a membership program. It's $2.99 or $4.99 per month, and that gets you access to the Telegram group, which is around 132 people at the moment, and it's going absolutely crazy with transfer speculations, injury speculations, and then every single game, it's an absolute hot pot of just joy. At the moment, joy and good times. You also get access, well, early access to a lot of the videos that we produce every single week. It really depends on timeline. So, you know, midweek games, we tend to not put them out to members, but most of the time you'll get an early access to match previews, the FPL show, the United State, and some other content as well. All that's left for me to do now is to thank the two gentlemen who have joined me this evening. So, Daryl, thanks very much, mate.
No, about that, anytime.
And Adam, thanks very much. Do you want to tell the people at home where they can find you?
Cheers for having me on. And as for my channel, just type in Adam Pearson on YouTube. It'll pop it straight away for you. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, lads. Thank you so much.
No worries, Adam. You're welcome back anytime you want. And we will leave a link in the description below to Adam's channel. You've probably already subscribed. To be honest, he's probably the reason you're watching this now. So, but we'll link to him anyway. So thanks very much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Ta-da.
Bye-bye.